Okay, thank you guys for joining today's Flutter Vibes KE. We are kicking off, we are still on the test bit. We've decided to do a deep dive of what tests are and try to learn everything that we can about tests in Flutter. We did the unit and widget test, and then we did integration test, and now we are doing something that's a bit interesting for me, which is widget behavior test. So yeah, we'll kick it off. We'll learn. Anyone who knows what widget behavior tests are, or anyone who's ever heard what that is. I know in Flutter they only, or rather most devs only focus on the three major tests. However, I feel like there is deeper thing into tests than the widget and the unit and the integration test. So does anyone here, as always, have a clue of what widget behavior tests are? Anyone? Yes, no? Okay, so I suppose silence means no. But anyway, let's try to learn all of us together, shall we? I will present my screen and then we kick it off as we discuss. Also, a bit of a disclaimer, I'm having challenges with my CocoaPod, so I'm not at a position to share my code. However, I tried to prepare a bit of slides, so we can just discuss from there. Feel free to chip in, feel free to contribute. That's what the vibes are here for. So, widget behavior tests. What are these widget behavior tests? So according to definition, this is a type of test in Flutter that focuses on simulating user interaction with widgets and verifying their expected behavior. So it's like we are mainly focusing on how particular widgets are being felt or are being used by users. It's more like, I feel like it's more like a integration test from what we did last session, but now this one we are mainly focusing on a particular widget. For example, we want to see, does a particular button give the expected outcome? Like if it's supposed to just tap and then have a pop-up screen, does it give us whatever we want? So that's the widget behavior test that we are trying to dig deep into. So what are the major focuses that we're going to dig deep check out in this widget behavior test? Number one, we have interaction simulation. By interaction simulation, I know I've written some bit of explanation, but can anyone try to say rather explain what they understand by interaction simulation? Yes, no? Okay, so this basically just simulates user interactions with widgets to replicate the real world. For example, we have the tap, we have the swap, like swapping to, the next screen like that, or, dragging and such stuff. So that's what we mean by the interaction simulation, like how the users feel while they're interacting with it. I guess the app control itself by taps. Do you mind to like expound that more? Please feel free to like unmute yourself. I think as we wait for Mark to like prepare, let's continue. And then our other focus is the gestures and animation. Yes.
I was saying, I guess it's like you see your app doing, like it goes to other screens, it taps on buttons by itself, like you're just watching the app inajipeleka, unaona. So like that's interacting, it's simulating how a user will be tapping. If it simulates, okay, let's say if it's a login button, it taps.
Yes, that's very correct. That's very correct. And I think we were able to like see that the previous time that we were running the integration test, where the application was able to like, or rather the test was able to simulate a user input their username and their password, and then they click on the next button. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. Thank you. So moving to the next focus on this is the gestures and animations. So here, this particular test simulates gestures like long press, drag and drop, pinch to zoom, when you long press a button in Flutter, I see it normally like shows like it shows like maybe colors change, or your button turns to a different button, or no, rather to a different color and such stuff. So it's able to like simulate that, and also validates animation by verifying that they start, in an animation, it like has like a process that it goes through, like from start, from seeing how the animation pops, and then to how the animation ends. Let's say it's a fade animation, so we are able to like see the animation pop slowly, display whatever it wants to display, and then it disappears or something. So this particular test is able to like simulate that, so that we are able to like see it passes rather. Any question? Was that well explained? Yes, no? Okay. So moving on to the next. Okay, how do we go to the next? This is embarrassing. Oh, you just stop. Okay. The other focus is testing user flows. So again, we want to like, the end purpose of this thing is to make sure that our users are able to like, or rather the application runs correctly the way we would want our users to feel. And then we have testing the user flow, basically navigating through the various screens, giving a smooth and consistent user behavior through the tests. So we are able to like, for example, a user is able to log in, they're able to maybe interact with the homepage and such stuff, maybe take a selfie and then upload to wherever they want to upload the photo. and maybe they are able to like log out or sign out and be like, do say some out. And then, so basically the test is able to like give us that experience that a user will be able to like follow this particular flow smoothly up to the end. Any question on that? Yes, no? All right. The next one is asserting the expected behavior. So by this, we mean the assertion to verify that the widget responds as intended. For example, a button, when you have a button, it's able to like trigger a specific action. For example, you know, it's able to like trigger a specific action. For example, it's able to like take you to the next screen. So we want to like make sure that the test is able to give us that, or at least view scrolls to the direction that you want. Maybe you want it to like scroll horizontally or vertically. So it displays that, in other words. And or a text field is able to like input the expected behavior, the expected text rather. So we want to like make sure that whatever we are writing on our application, and when we write this widget test on it, the widgets are able to like give us the expected behavior that we want. We don't want to like write to have a button that okay, you can have an input button field, right? Yeah. Is that even correct? But you get what I'm saying, right? Or does anyone have like another way of explaining this? Yes, guys, we are here to like learn together. Come on, don't be all silent. Okay, but let's continue to the next focus. We supposed to tap. All right, our other major focus on this widget behavior test is widget tree manipulation. By this, I would really like to like call on anyone to like explain this. Please unmute your mic and yeah. But if I may explain it, so widget tree manipulation. So this means that we dynamically manipulate the widget tree, which at the end of the day allows you to simulate changes in the UI hierarchy, rather the user interface hierarchy, and test how the app responds to those. Okay. Does anyone like, I know like this definition probably isn't as clear, but I would really want to like know, what do you think about the widget tree manipulation on tests?
I'd say it's about changing the state of the widget, since the widget is built upon state, and the only way to change sort of manipulate the widget tree is by changing the state of whatever the widget tree is presenting. That's what you're presenting in the UI. So I'd say maybe like changing the height or something and seeing how the app responds to that. So
Yeah.
maybe if you have a container, you change what the container contains within it and the dimensions of that container. So yeah.
Yeah, precisely. That's absolutely correct. So thank you so much, Augustine, for that. That's actually the whole point of widget tree manipulation. So in other words, is you can remove widget or modify widget properties or rebuild parts of the widgets to mimic different scenarios and to actually whatever Augustine said, like you're able to like change some things, maybe it's the padding or something of a container or something, and you want to like see how it interacts. So that's absolutely correct. Thank you so much for that. And this, the number 6 other focus is the asynchronous testing. So here, we know like we have maybe like some widgets that have to like wait sometimes, you know, like let's say you're calling you have like you had like a network request or something, so obviously it's gonna have to like wait a bit before you get the expected result. So this widget that it involves widget that may involve a synchronous operation like network requests or animation, rather things that may require some bit of time before they're able to be rendered on the UI. Anyone with any other explanation, any question on that? Yeah, I want to like know how you guys think about that. Isaac, let me see.
Hi, Candy.
Hi.
Sorry, I just joined. I'm trying to follow through. I'm trying to multitask here, but let me get you on the next question. So I didn't hear this one, so kindly let me pass.
Okay, no worries. Maybe I would probably call on somebody else. Or maybe not. Augustine, do you feel like taking it up?
My take on asynchronous testing would be something like maybe not more on the network request part, but on the animations part, because the animations are usually like you have a certain duration for that animation to take effect, right? And when you're animating, you are animating the widget from one sort of configuration into another. So maybe you are, in a very basic sense, like maybe you're animating a container from having a height and width of 100 to having height and width of 150, right? So that's asynchronous by definition. So you'd want to like test maybe the starting part of that container, the dimensions it had, and then tests against the dimensions after the animation to ensure that now you have like the desired state after the fact. So that's the kind of testing I'd envision if we are talking about asynchronous testing.
Yeah, precisely, yes. That's actually very, very correct. Thank you for that. I see we have Mark say Google sign-in method. Would you care to like expound on that as well?
So I think asynchronous testing, maybe let's say we have a button that implements Google sign-in, like those buttons when you click on it, it brings your Google accounts. And so that is an asynchronous method. So it could be testing, the widget behavior test could be testing how, if that method waits for the data, and does it, after it waits, after it gets the data, does the UI change, or does it respond to changes? Something like that.
Yeah, I think precisely, yes. Both of your answers are actually very correct. So in other words, we are just we are writing a test that has to wait for a particular action to take place, and so that we move now to the next step. That's very correct. Thank you so much, guys, for that. So to the last focus, this one particularly focuses on the widget finder. Again, referencing to our last session, we were trying to like find particular widget using specific keys. For example, we could say like find by key or find by type. So in this case, it allows you to locate a widget within the widget tree based on various criteria like key, test, or property. So that's precisely what we mean. Like we are able to like find by key or find by type. We had another one, find by, I've forgotten the name, and we had a discussion on it. Does anyone remember? Does anyone remember why it was? Sam was presenting it. It was find by something. Anyway, I've forgotten. Anyway.
I think it's find by, are you saying the one that was find by key, or there's
Yeah.
something else that was
Yeah.
using, I think, I forgot it. Is it find by key?
No, there was find by key, find by type. It's find by something. It's actually very simple. It's just that it's slipping off the mind.
Oh yeah, I remember there was a widget for that, like specifically for identifying that widget, the widget you are wrapping it in.
Yes. I will remember. But yeah, so this basically it. Yeah, so to the next slide. So here's the sample code that I was able to like to just get. Again, I'm really sorry I can't present my screen because I'm having like CocoaPods issues. I was trying to like connect the code to Firebase. So yeah. So on this particular code base, we all remember like what we talked about, why we need like the main, right? So this is how like we initialize our test case, okay? And we have a code example that it tests the button tap test. So this specifically for a particular button. So we want to test a particular button. And we're able to like first build the widget tree by initializing the tester.pump widget and then calling my app for rather to call the whole application rather to build the whole widget. What am I saying? To build the whole widget tree by calling my app. Okay. And then we just talked about how to find a widget. And here it is. So we are able to like find this particular widget and we are finding it by key. And in this key, we've called it my button. So we are able, we have a button that we've given a specific key, and the name of this particular key is my button. So it's easy for us to like locate this particular button using the my button key phrase. And then we have to like await. So await tester.tap. So this one simulate the button with the button finder. Yeah. And then we have the await tester.pump. So this one rebuilds the whole widget tree to reflect changes after the button has been tapped. And after the button has been tapped, we obviously expect like an outcome. So the outcome for this particular button is a text that shows button has been tapped, and we are able to like find one widget on that. Any question on that? Any clarification? Yes, no? Views on it? Guys, I'm waiting for a question, by the way. Okay, so this basically is like a very, very small code example. Of course, we have more. I would actually want to see how you would write like a test for a widget that simulates an animation or an animation and such stuff. So yes. Continuing. Oh yeah, this is just the next slide. But yeah, you have to keep consistent. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you guys for sticking through. Now I am open to any question, discussions, anything. Let's talk now. What do you guys think of the widget test behavior, widget behavior tests, and is there any clarity that's needed? Do you guys understand it? Yeah, it's time. It's that time.
Just a quick question. Unfortunately, I missed last Wednesday's session, but is there a difference between widget tests and widget behavior tests? Are they more or less the same?
Okay, that's a pretty amazing question. Anyone who wants to answer that has been to the sessions before? Mark? Mark, you've been on the sessions all through. I know you know this, and Mila and Augustine also. Okay.
Maybe just like if you're trying to test for something that's maybe more dynamic, right? And the changes will take maybe a certain duration for them to take effect. Maybe like the analogy we used for the animation bit. Do you have to specify on the side of the test the amount of time you have to wait before you test for the actual results to have taken effect?
You are asking that as a question, right?
Yeah.
I think you can, honestly, but I haven't tried. But thinking through, then if whenever you're writing an animation, these are some of the things that you consider, right? Like the time, and also maybe even on the test bit. I'm honestly not so sure about that. So maybe we can do research on it.
Yeah, I think if you, for the animation to have taken effect, there's a certain duration you have to wait. So maybe on the test, can you just wait for a specific duration? Yes, Michael?
Let me check that. Yeah, you have two options. There's, for example, the test.pump and settle, which will just be, if it's the only animation that will be on screen, that'll just wait until the animation is done. The other option is using this tester.pump. One of its parameters is a duration. So for example, if you pass in 5 seconds, it'll automatically, it won't take real life 5 seconds, but it will simulate 5 seconds, which would be enough for your animation to complete.
Oh, okay. I think that's convenient enough. If you can just pass the duration in the pump, then ideally at the end of it, you'll have the effect you wanted. Thank you.
What if the animation takes a bit longer, but then you haven't specified specific time on the tester.pump?
So if you don't specify a time, it just passes, it does one machine cycle. It's just like, yeah, and await duration at 0.
Uh-huh.
Specifying is for when you have a specific amount of time. But if you don't know how long an animation would take, you can just use the pump and settle method, which waits for all animations on screen to stop. But
Okay.
that should only be used if you don't have something like a circular progress indicator that goes infinitely, because otherwise
Oh.
that would not really work.
Also, basically, settle will mean that all the frames that need to be painted will have been painted by the time you go to the assertion, like the expect statement.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Thanks for that. And we had another question that is the widget behavior test same as widget tests, or there's a difference?
I think widget test will have to be if you're trying to maybe test something more static, because behavior basically implies that it's dynamic. So maybe the animation test will fall mostly into the widget behavior test. But that's just my take on it. I don't know if that's very correct.
Well, I think according to me, I feel like they are more or less the same. I think widget tests are tests written for a specific widget to test if its function, while widget behavior test is a test of how all widgets are behaving. I think the difference is how many widgets are being tested. Correct? I think so too. And I also understand that you don't have to like write tests for all the widgets, right? I think it differs based on the complexities. Okay, like what are these complexities? Hector, do you mind like maybe expanding on that? But I get your point, Mark. I think so too. Okay, so alrighty. Any other question? Any other feedback on it? Let's. This thing can't go back. Judah is saying, test the widget structure of a widget behavior, test the behavior of widgets more precisely. Like simple user interaction and more complex user interaction as per se. Widget test tends to base on a simple user interaction. Well, yeah. I see. Thank you for your input. Do you guys mind like just unmuting your mics maybe if you're not on a noisy place? Oh, thanks, Mark. I'm trying to like go back to the definition of what we said. I'm just understanding what the behavior test is, but I think you guys get the whole gist of it, and I believe that's correct. Mm-hmm. Do we have any more questions? Yes, no, yes, no, no, yes. By the way, what's up, Mila?
Hello, I do have a comment, or maybe let me just say I do have a view. Now, a disclaimer before I share this view.
Mhm.
It might come across as if I'm against testing, but I am not. Yeah, that's the disclaimer that I'm sharing. Like, in
Okay.
fact, I support testing. In fact, if you were to like do voting, I will vote yes for testing. So I'm not against testing, right? But I guess now, from how I see, rather like from rather like my experience so far, the reason why I think this has been fairly interesting has been I personally haven't written a widget test before, or any. Okay, I've done like test a few times, yeah, which is fine, but then I haven't like really done like strong testing before. And the reason has been because in places where I've worked, or in teams where I've had a chance to work, most times they are mostly like bootstrapping teams, yeah. And you find that there is a minimal resources, and working against a hard timeline. Now, again, like one thing to mention here is that I do appreciate that tests allow you to go faster, which is fine because you end up not having to go back like once in a while. So that is another view which I strongly hold. But I will say that it holds maybe for like a more experienced team, yeah. But now, say in a case where like in a case where the team is young, and then now we have like limited resources, and you're competing with one mega resources, and against time as well. I think one way that I was able to find that really worked in terms of shipping, because tests aim to help us ship quality code, and to ship it in a manner which is sustainable, and in a manner which doesn't break many things over time. So one thing I found out by experimentation was that as long as you're able to say do proper file organization, I think there was a meetup regarding architecture like a while back that I wasn't able to attend, but but if you're able to do proper organization of say your code base, it becomes easy to know where things break and where things will not break. That way, because I see like in a company setting, okay, no one cares that you're writing tests, yeah, but what is scared about is that value is being shipped, and is being shipped consistently. And so I believe that like having proper code structure, like saying, and by this is not that it's block or riverpod or qubit or things like that. It is by this I mean that if you ever want a file for this particular place, the entire team knows that this file like is always here and this file is always there. That way, the way something that way it is not easy to break things as more features are added. And then I guess now for things like widget testing, I will say that that manual testing also becomes an option, in that before the feature goes live, before the feature goes live, that the manual test has been able to okay, if you begin like river process like block and flutter here, like you won't leave this meeting. But anyway, I believe that as you organize the files properly, and then as you keep it properly organized, and then as you keep it properly organized, and then as you keep on adding more code and more screen, then it's easier not to break. And then that way, now it now allows you, when time allows, to now begin to write the test. Because again, businesses have to like a business cares more about economics than beautiful code. And I believe that, being like professional, you can do some well put code which doesn't sacrifice quality, but at the same time you're able to move fairly faster. And this is my view on not having tests in a small team where we have mega resources and there is limited timelines to do a few things. However, as I said, I'm not against tests. Tests work very well. In fact, I've seen that while this approach was able to work for starting out, as the team now grows and as the app is becoming stabler and as the people are beginning to use it and people are becoming more, then tests have now been introduced. And once code is properly organized, then it's easy to introduce tests in the like once that is happening. So that is my view on this whole testing saga. Which also explains why I've never done like any widget tests, not because they're bad, but because it has never gotten to a point where what if you are the sole developer, as I've explained? What if you are the sole developer? As you've clearly explained, your own using teams. Okay, solo as well. I've also done like multiple solo apps as well. And again, like for myself, I normally keep the code standard for every app. So in that, any app I've written, you'll find the same structure of code across all the apps. That way, in case I have to like jump between any of them, it's easy to jump through because the same format of code, the same file structure, the same everything is kept. And that way, even onboarding somebody else when they need to, they're now just able to follow the pattern of file arrangements. And from that reason, they're able to be productive as they join the project. So works for like whether you're solo or whether you're a team. Because again, even being solo, like if I'm solo, I'm like my app works. Yeah, so if it works and after say then it works. And again, app writing is very heavy work, and some of these things, if you are competing between features and testing, you might get overwhelmed trying to have everything tested. And so my method for doing that is to ensure that things are properly organized in proper folders. That way, as you add more features, previous features aren't breaking. And if they break because of the code structure being properly organized, you are able to know where the bug is and be able to fix it quickly. So proper file structure allows for proper bug investigation when the time comes. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mila, for that. That's an interesting point of view. However, I have maybe a question. You know, like how you've mentioned, like you are not against tests and all, but isn't it like a practice, like how you're also practicing like how to structure your code base properly so that you're able to know what's failing and what's not failing?
How I went about this was I think there was a time when I was working on a team and we were writing tests. So I was in charge of bootstrapping the test. So so because of that particular reason, it now helped me to develop a nice code structure which I was able to use prior, not to use afterwards. So the testing was able to inform the code structure. But since then, that was in 2020 into 2020. No, that was in 2020. Yeah. But since then, you know, the things are fast paced, things are moving so quickly, and you find that I haven't had the time to like do, like though I haven't had like time to say like do proper testing or rather like writing proper widget test. However, courtesy of being a team leader, like in some places, you find that once the app is stable and things are shipping clearly, there's normally this time in teams where there isn't like much work coming through, and you feel as if there's a lot of like free time like happening in a properly run team, not in a place where you're being moved from place to place like all the time. And you find that that time becomes a very nice time to now put in place the testing structure. So I'm not against, but I'm saying that depends on timing as well, because say a company has raised funding, like what they care about is shipping something which is able to work to begin earning them revenues. And then as that is coming in, then they're able to afford the team in the long run. So at times, from my view, how I've seen some of these things work is that focusing on some of this, okay, again, I'm not against testing. What I'm saying is that testing takes a while to be done well. Yeah, and when done well, it works very, very well. Though at times, due to competing business interests, it becomes an interesting challenge, like balancing between writing tests and the person is seeing that this thing works. So why write test when this thing is able to work? So it becomes a tricky balance to maintain. And so it now becomes the time to introduce testing usually has been when it's like more relaxed and things aren't moving as fast as they were when you are bootstrapping the app and like building from ground up.
Okay, cool. I actually get your point, and that has made me like think of something else. Has anyone ever tried the very good CLI? Anyone? No one? Yes? No? So
I have.
Yeah.
you have like
Yeah.
yeah, like I noticed they have like this particular structure, like also depending on what state management that you're gonna use, like they structure everything for you. They even give you like they even create like a test folder for you, and that's correct, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I think like for your scenario, then when you mentioned like you have like a small team or something and you're rushing against time, then maybe people could consider that so that you kill two birds with one stone or something. I don't know. How was your experience though with the very good CLI? I'm really curious to know your experience, like all of you.
Maybe I can share and then I mute. So on my end, what happens is normally I will delete the folder and just have a git keep file in there to keep the test folder for the sake of the formatting function that normally runs in the pipeline. But again, like for testing as well, I think that once the core testing has been done, this because now there is normally the qubits, then you have the qubits calling services that now call external things now. So I think once the services like have been properly structured, then those can be say tested. But then things like widget tests take a while. However, I saw this framework. I think it's called Maestro by mobile.dev, which I am looking forward to trying. That has a way to specify your tests and have them run on your machine. It's called, I think, maestro.mobile.dev, and they have a Flutter thing that they're trying to like pioneer. So I think once that is able to work, then it will now be able to allow me to see how to go about working through the tests in a manner which I can just like use like YAML files to specify the test as opposed to like writing code to do the testing, because in the end it is testing that it works, and necessarily that you wrote code to be tested. So that is my comment on the matter. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you so much, Mila, for that thing. Oh, interesting. Also, I'm gonna go check what Maestro does. We had somebody else like comment on the very good CLI. We still have like 4 more minutes, so.
Yeah, I worked with a very good CLI.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working in a very particular way, I found the guys at Very Good Ventures to be very opinionated in how they structure things and how they do everything. So if you're working in that specific way, it's a really big speed boost. But if you are structuring it differently, it even slows you down a bit because you now end up going to start changing everything to be more your style. So then just speaking a little bit on testing, just going on with the point that Mila had started, I find that testing is a skill. While we heavily encourage testing in almost all cases, if you have a very inexperienced team, tests become really, they really hold you back. Because for example, if you have a case where you have a mess on the code and a mess on the tests. That's two areas to really fix before you can able to do anything. And it does happen because it's a case that's called fragile tests, where sometimes to change one thing means you're spending 90% of the time trying to get tests to run again and so on. So it's one of those things that you also need to learn how to write code in a testable way, what it makes sense to test, etc., etc. There are times when it's faster if you go through the testing approach than actually manual testing. If you've ever gotten to a point where you're doing something very algorithmically heavy, I've found that it's faster to just be able to write the test and get the immediate feedback right now. This is working, this is wrong by this amount, etc., etc. But I've found, at least in my experience, when it comes to testing the UI where we're writing the widget tests, it's more beneficial when you already know what you're going to do, not when you're changing the UI every single time if you're a startup. Because for startups, it's very possible what you finish in this sprint, 2 sprints away, you completely get rid of. And at such a case, writing tests, you can't even get a negative attitude towards it because it took quite a bit of work to do. Then your CTO comes next week. No, we're changing the UI. This doesn't look like it's working.
I see. I feel like you explained it in a more complex way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Here's the link. Yeah, that's true. Even Mila agrees with that. I see how Maestro interacts. So does this mean like you write like one file for literally the whole application? So and all the widgets of that particular app, you literally write everything on one YAML file.
I'm not sure yet. I haven't tried, so I've been planning to like try in like when I get some downtime, just to give it a try.
I see. But this one looks like a quicker integration test. Works really fast. Literally test the whole application at once, huh? It looks interesting. I hope for the next session, somebody will have tried it and shed light to us on it. I think we are up on our time. Today's session was just 1 hour. I think I will end the call here. I'm really grateful for all of you joining. In fact, I had like a really cute slide for that. Let me present it. Thank you guys for sticking through the whole session. It's always a vibe and we're always learning. Personally, I'm always learning. I hope you guys are too. Looking forward to the next session. Also feel free to like drop in topics that you'd want us to like discuss, talk more about, dig deep into, and yeah, we learn together. This learning never stops. Thanks guys. See you guys next Wednesday. And if somebody also wants to like take charge of the vibes, feel free also to reach out to me, Eric, Sam, Danvik. Yeah. And let's vibe again next Wednesday, yeah?
Thanks so much for hosting.
Bye guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Okay.